Now I'd like to introduce the spiritual leader of Midrash Ben Ish Chai, and of course the Rabbanit husband, Hacham Rabbi Yaakov Menashe.
First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming down. And you're here because you love her. And it means a lot. Once again, I apologize to those who are standing, but I appreciate all of you being here. I know they did bring a lot more chairs in, but in any case, thank you for being here and thank you for wanting to pay tribute to the memory of this most amazing person and, with the help of heaven, to continue her legacy. I want to thank the Rabbanim Hashuvim who are here today, who made the effort to come down. I'm deliberately not naming them for fear that I haven't noticed somebody and I don't want to insult anybody. But we very much appreciate it. I want to thank Rabbi and Rabbanith Kohen for making their wonderful synagogue available to us. And I'd like to take this opportunity to speak a little bit about Rabbanith, Ruth, Menashe, or she was very particular to say Menashe. And Rabbanith, her name of course is Ruth Bat Ahuva. Our custom is to use the mother's name for a woman even after she passes away. We've spoken a lot about her in the past. We had those amazing speeches at the Lewayat, the Young Israel, that Rabbi and Rebbitzin Lerner organized at incredibly short notice. They're all online. They're on nonstoptorah.com. Those little brochures that you all have has it mentioned there, nonstoptorah.com. If you haven't seen them, we had subsequent hespedim and speeches here and in the land of Israel, and we've spoken quite a lot. So I'm probably not going to touch on the majority of those things that we spoke about already. Maybe some of them I will. Some things that I have spoken about I will speak about, but I want to touch new ground also. But I do encourage everyone to see them because there were some amazing stories there that really tell us a lot. Today I will speak a little bit about my beloved wife, but frankly, I don't even think it's 1% of what I could be speaking about. We are working actively on a book to do with her life and legacy, which hopefully will have more in it, as well as books on her teachings. Rabbeinu V'Hida Alav Shalom writes, he says, speaking about Masa Isha Masa Tov, if a person finds a wife, he finds good. The woman Isha in Gematria, Jewish numerology, is of course 306. Ish is 5 more, he's 311. And he says when a woman is a woman, that is when it works. He says when a woman becomes Ha-Isha, that she becomes the woman, that she's the boss, she's in charge, then the gematria of Isha becomes the same. Ha-Isha becomes the same as Shevet. She becomes a stick, a staff, a rod. He says that's when things don't work so well. He also says that the gematria of Isha is the same as Debash, honey. And it seems to me, we know that a woman, I'm not telling you something you don't know, men and women, you know that a woman is inherently more spiritual than a man. Just a fact. women tend to be closer to Hashem. Hashem is more in their lives. God is more in their lives. And that is the He, the 5 that is missing from a woman vis-a-vis a man. The 5 in the Gematria, there's 5 more in a man. How is that 5 made up for a woman? It's made up by Hashem being with them spiritually. A woman who decides she wants to be the boss, she wants to be a man, she also wants to be an ish. There's no room for that spirituality of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's no room for that He of Hashem, because it's been used up with her wanting to be the man. Rabbanit Ruth was debash, was honey in every sense of the word. And she was indelibly tied to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The He representing HaKadosh Baruch Hu was totally part of her life. However, anyone who would see her and say, because she's so sweet and wonderful, she doesn't have what it takes to do, would be misunderstanding the woman. She was not only very capable, but she did. She wasn't embarrassed to do anything. She was sweet, yes. She had a childish innocence to her. Yet at the same time, she had amazing comprehension and understanding. That is something that I miss. My kids come to me today, Abba, what should we do? I say, I don't know, ask your mother. But she was at the same time a powerhouse. She was, those of you who know her, and I guess it's most of you, not like many of us are. We're all about ourselves. This is what I am, this is what I want to do, this is what I've achieved, this is where I want to go, this is what I... She was all about the other person. She was all about you. As a result, she had, you see, if you're about the other person, not about yourself, if you're about yourself, you're full inside of yourself, your pride, your arrogance, whatever you want to call it, or your own life. It takes over. There's no room for anyone else in your life. There's no room for other people. When you can divorce yourself from that, when you can remove that you're not all about you, you're about the other person, all of a sudden you've got a lot of time and space for the other person that you're speaking to. And this is the one thing you hear over and over again from people. She listens. She listened to everything I said. She took it all in because she had room to take it in. And as a result, this is one of the reasons that many, many people feel that she was their best friend. Why? Because she gave them what a best friend would give them. And she meant it. It wasn't just something superficial or putting on a show. That is who she was. She listened to people. She felt for people. One of her most major traits, and I think it's connected with the fact that she didn't put herself on a pedestal, though she had every right to. One of her greatest traits was recognizing the good that somebody else did for her. And she was the first to say thank you. You know, if we call somebody for something or we send a text or whatever it is, we're just focused on what it is that we want. Or if you see someone on the street, you're thinking about yourself. If she saw someone on the street, or she had to call someone or text someone, the first thing she thought about was not what she wanted, was the other person. And almost invariably, she would think of something that person did for her, and she would thank that person. There are people sitting here who tell me they have voicemails from her, texts from her, thank you, thank you, thank you, and they don't want to delete them. And I've heard this from several people. She has a notebook. She has a few notebooks. After she passed away, I went through her things, and there were things that I get very emotional about, sent shivers down my spine. But she had a notebook. And in it, there were 3 pages of lists of names of people. I was reading this, and I realized that these were names of people who did something for her during her illness, prayed for her, went to the kotel for her, organized halal for her. She owed them. And I'm reading this list, and suddenly a name springs out at me. I can't say too many people hurt my wife in her life. She didn't know them well. She didn't care. She wouldn't have cared if they said or they did. There's one person who hurt my wife very badly. And it did damage to her. Not something you would have expected from that person. And I'm saying, why is that person's name on this list? And I realized it's because he had done or he had organized something for her, refuah. She had nothing in her heart to say, that person is not making my list. Nothing. I showed the list to my kids. They're looking at it. It says, yeah, these are people that Emma did something for, people that did something for Emma. I said, keep reading. And each one went, huh? She was different to the rest of us. If you're like that too, forgive me, but the majority of us, she was different. Excuse me. You know, we're told, the direction that a person wants to go in, he's taken in that direction. So what does that mean? If a person wants to be a criminal, he's helped to be a criminal. A criminal shouldn't say, look, but I was helped along my way. They made it easy for me. It's because you wanted to be a criminal. By the same token, a person who wants to do the right things, the door's open for him. There's one story that I did tell before, but I think it just sums up something important. My wife, as I said, always had a need to say thank you, and she always said thank you. This is something, one of the derechs, one of the paths that she wanted to go in. She liked the music from an Israeli singer, Haim Israel. Some of you might be familiar with him. My wife, of course, her existence was the Torah, the Torah, the Torah, Torah. Many of you have heard that she said to me in a private moment, she said, all I want to do is spread the greatness of His holy name. Haim has some beautiful Torah songs. Bring tears to her eyes. Brought her a lot of happiness. Brought her a lot of happiness in her darker days. She went to see him at a concert. My daughters tell me she cried the whole way through. Songs like Kadiat Bin, songs like Shema Yisrael, so on and so forth. Ma Habti Toratecha. These meant a lot to her. But you know, he's a celebrity, a star. She passed away. Her last days in hospital, we sang his songs to her, we played his songs to her. But of course, she never really met him, didn't have the chance to thank him. As a matter of fact, one of the classes she gave, they played a snippet of it and she translated the words, one of the classes she gave here in Great Neck. And we didn't want to put it on, even though everybody does, without getting permission. And she would get up in the middle of the night to call Israel. She couldn't do it. In the end, we took it out of the video that we put on. Excuse me. We're at the airport. What are we doing at the airport? We're transporting my good wife to be buried at Har Zaytin. The whole family's going. I get on the plane first, or I'm called before the others. We weren't exactly in the same seats. I get on the plane. One of my daughters comes in later and says, I'm fine, thank you, Mahila. One of the daughters comes on the plane and says, Haim Israel is on this plane. She said, we told him about Emma, and he started crying. My wife said about him, the kid said, what do you like about him so much? She says, I forget the term. What? He's down to earth. Thank you. And they said, how do you know he's down to earth? She says, you can see him. He starts crying. Apparently, then another two daughters said, oh, it looks like Haim Israel. They go, Haim, and he turns around, yep, it's him. And they start telling him the story. He says, I know already. He says, let me have your email address or your cell phone or whatever. He says, I'm going to try and come to the Shiva. You're sure he is. We're sitting in the Shiva in Yerushalayim the first 3 days that we were in Yerushalayim before we came back. Who walks in? Haim Israel. He's down to earth. They had already thanked him. But we had the opportunity again to say, it was so important for my wife to thank everybody. And she didn't manage. Kadosh Baruch Hu puts you on the same flight as her. Thank you. And by the way, I told him about this business of the portion of his song in one of our, he says, do me a favor, put it in. So we will remake that video and have it online at Nonstop Torah. There's no question in my mind. That was just one coincidence. I've spoken about so many coincidences. There's no such thing, of course, as coincidence in the Jewish religion, but you can call it a coincidence. But when you add them all up, like in Purim, one after another intertwined, you realize there's no coincidence. And this was just one of a whole series of things that happened on our trip to Israel that were absolutely no coincidence, including, as I mentioned to many of you before, the fact that we managed 30-something years later to get two graves right next to where my parents had bought theirs. And everything else around it was taken. This was just one of the things that happened. She saw God's miracles. In fact, if we see them, it's because of her. She sees them all the time. She saw them all the time. And in her illness, she saw God's miracles from beginning to end. And I want to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was incredibly merciful. I don't know why she had to go. She was doing his job, and she was like taken, boom, in the middle. But he was incredibly merciful. The illness that she had and the treatment that she got could have been very, very different. She was able to function properly. It gave us the opportunity to show her how much we cared for her, how much we loved her. And that meant so much to her. To the extent that she would say to me how amazing I was. I would tell her, you don't understand. We're told Kamayim hapanim lapanim ken leb ha'adam la'adam. If you look into a pool of water, assuming it's nice and clean and it's not windy, and you look in, what do you see? You see yourself. If you smile, the pool of water smiles back at you. If you wave your hand, it waves your hand back at you. So I told her, if you think I'm amazing, it's because I'm a reflection of you. I said, but just as, look in that pool of water, is it as good as the original? No. That gives you an idea of how she was. You know, I said that she sees miracles and everything. I want to tell you one. When she was first diagnosed and she was very, very sick, before she started her treatment, she couldn't walk, she couldn't talk, she couldn't say a sentence without coughing 3-4 times. She couldn't get the volume out. You asked her to speak here, Rabbi Cohen. It was a Shabbat afternoon. Somebody from your synagogue asked her to speak. How's she going to get here? She can't walk from my house to here. It's not possible. I mean, she could hardly walk, period. I said to her, and I was scared to even mention it because you know how people feel about it. I said, do you want me to try and get you a wheelchair? She said, yes. I got her a wheelchair. I was in synagogue. I didn't know what happened. She said it was a miracle. She didn't use the wheelchair. She walked here. She spoke loudly. And she didn't cough. You know what she said? Most people would say, God, it's not fair. I'm doing your work. Why are you doing this to me? You know what she said? She said, God is helping me to give better classes. She was non-judgmental in every shape and form. She would be perfectly at home with people who are totally religious and totally non-religious. She didn't judge anybody. She just looked inside at them. She just looked at their insides. You know, there's one topic when we were sitting that everybody knows her for. When we were sitting Shiv'ah in Israel, a couple from this community right here were in Israel and visited, paid us a call for the Shiv'ah. And the woman wears a wig. I don't know if she was wearing it at the time or not. I don't recall. She said she had just watched a video of the Rabbanits giving a shi'ur speaking about head coverings. Because you know, the Rabbanit felt for Sephardi women, Ashkenazi women should not getting into it because we know in the Ashkenazi world there are those who are totally against it, those who are totally for it. But she felt very, very deeply that Sephardi women should not wear wigs, shekels, whatever you wish to call it. And she had just watched this, and she said it was the most amazing shi'ur. She said the Rabbanith was so non-judgmental because she fully understood why people do things, the pressures. Sometimes they believe they're doing it for the right reasons. Whatever the reason, that is who she was. She just spoke sweetly and said what it is she wanted to say, but never, never looked at a person in a disparaging way or spoke to them about them in a disparaging way or looked down on them. Not in any shape or form. I want to read you a letter that a lady who is here tonight, I believe, gave me yesterday. She basically wrote it to the Rabbanit, even though she just wrote it. I just want to read a couple of excerpts. She says, she went to someone's home where the Rabbanit was giving a shi'ur. Essentially, there were Sephardi ladies. She said, I perhaps, being one of just a few Sephardim. I wonder what that could be. She said that the Rabbanit spoke about sini'ut. As you know, that was really a big, big issue for her, women being modest. Again, she never judged anybody, but she tried to make them understand. And I guess part of the topic was thoughts about pe'anochri, shetel, wigs. She said one lady asked a question and about that topic. I don't know if she mentioned it in the lecture, I guess she did. But the woman asked about it. She says, your response, so beautifully and wisely stated, was that sometimes there are other customs, and as such, it is good to ask your own rabbi. Not pushing her thoughts, her feelings, just doing her job, stating what she thinks, and then saying, you go ahead and you talk to your own rabbi and make your decision. She says, I was instantly aware that your reply was an example of respect for another Jew. You know, an area not really talked about, we haven't talked about that much, was the area of her being an assistant principal. She was also very non-judgmental there also. We've got tons and tons and tons of letters and things that people who were students wrote. Just a few points I'm going to take from a few of them, just to give you an idea. One woman says, I remember when I was still in middle school and I used to have DMCs, used to have conversations with her sometimes. And once I asked her, Mrs. Menashe, that's what she says. She was called different things in the school, Mrs. Menashe, people refer to her the Rabbanit, whatever it is. I asked her, Mrs. Menashe, why do you care so much about what happens to your students? Some of us are so rotten. And she answered me, it's because as my students, I consider you my children. She says, I miss her. So do we. Another woman says, I assume they're women now, the Rabbanith was the epitome of a Bat Melech. She taught me how special it is to be a Jewish princess in the most impactful way. She led by example. She was incredibly smart, humble, refined. Wow. Sinuah, modest, kind, warm, gentle. I didn't even add one word to this. In many ways, she is and always will be my biggest role model. I can honestly say that there is not... Oh, wait, listen to this. This blew me away. I can honestly say that there is not one person I know. Remember, she went to the school and people hate the principals. At least somebody does. Not one person I know who has one bad word to say about her. She continues, what other principal in the world has a track record like that? She adds, I never once heard the Rabbanit raise her voice. Well, I can tell you, neither did I. And I gave her plenty of opportunity. She adds, she has changed people and therefore the world forever. Skipping some that shows that she was not, I shouldn't because it shows that she was not carried away by her position in any shape or form. We'll skip it. Boys division also she was running or in charge of. One of the boys writes, he says, the boys in the school had a siyum and they were becoming impatient and wanted to, I don't know whether they wanted to start dancing because the speeches were going on and they were tired. And they were watching the recording and he said they saw that the Rabbanith was the only one listening intently because Torah was very important to her. And tears were even streaming down her eyes because this run-of-the-mill derasha touched her heart. And he says the second quality that he really appreciated from her was her seniut. He says, I still have a picture in my house of the table of the heads of the school. and how they sat. The rabbi sat there, and he says she sat a distance from them near the stairs. He says, kavod, honor was something she didn't feel was a necessity for her. A real Bat Yisrael realizes her innate value without having a need for others to provide kavod. I know that is exactly how it was. I mentioned in the past that I never had any secrets from her. Again, I reiterate, if somebody told me something that you asked me not to repeat to her, that I did not repeat. But I didn't have any personal secrets from her. I can't say the same is true in reverse. I'm going to explain what I mean. She had secrets from us. But these were not secrets that, we should have known about. She was not secretive, but she was modest, and she was humble. And she wouldn't tell us something if it was just, wow, that's an amazing thing you did. We found out at the Shiva, I never knew this. All the years I've been married to her, she was top of her class. She was the smartest girl in her class. There was another girl who they would compare, test results, who got the highest. But she was, in all subjects, difficult subjects, she was very, very smart. It all makes sense because we just knew that she knew everything. Really, we just, for anything, any topic, any subject, we go to her, she'd know. But she never, ever, in all the years, mentioned this to any of us. One lady wrote a note in our house. She came during the Shabbat. She said that her father was in hospital for quite a while before Allah Shalom, he passed away. Now, I know I'd gone once, maybe twice, and I went with the Rabbanit to see him. She wrote that the Rabbanit was there almost every day, crying with them. Who knew? She never told us. Yet she managed to do everything else, get everything done. For the midrash, for the school, for the children, as we heard. Something like that she never would mention and never mentioned. My daughter, one of my daughters, Aziza, came back the other day. She said she was in one of the supermarkets around here in town. And the cashier, a Spanish lady, says to her, "Hi, how are you doing? Tell me, how's your wife? I haven't seen her in a long..." I'm sorry, your wife. "How's your mother? I'm sorry, I haven't seen her in a long time." She said, "I'm also sorry, my mother passed away a couple of months ago." So she was devastated. She says she's such a nice lady, such a sweet lady. She said, one day it was raining very hard. My wife was always running last minute into everything, so I figured this was at night before they were closing. She's probably knocking on the door, "Can I come in?" And it was pouring rain. She says she took all of us to the train station, to the train. Now, do you know what a Kiddush Hashem that is? Who would do that? Thank you, I got my milk, see you later. Now, I want to tell you another story about a supermarket in Kiddush Hashem. I told you she's not afraid of anything. We were in a supermarket upstate in the Catskills. And this busload of Orthodox Jewish girls walks into the supermarket, behaving, forgive me for saying it, despicably. Throwing their weight around, pushing their weight around. The people in the store are getting very aggravated. Okay, happened to be a group, I'm sure normally they don't behave like this, but on this occasion they were hyper, whatever it was. But it really was an embarrassment. Okay, so I'm doing what I do best. I fume privately and I don't say anything. You know what she did? She finished what she had to do in the supermarket. She got on the bus. Now, if I had the guts to get on the bus, I would say, "Do you know what you just did?" She spoke so sweetly. She tells him, it's very important. We're all ambassadors. And how the non-Jews look at us depends on how we behave. Now, I know you didn't mean it, and I know you were in a hurry and you were excited, but just think about how they did. And then some of the girls get, and she kept talking. In the end, they all said, "Thank you very much for telling us." My daughter Aziza, who I just mentioned, I should mention all my daughters, God bless them all, once said to me, she said that Rabbanit Ruth never complained about anything she had to do. And she had a ton of things to do. She was the busiest person I've ever known in the world. She had many reasons to complain. But she never ever complained. She said to me, is this human? Is this human? We never ever once heard her complain? What was she? Yeah. Immediately the word angel springs to mind because everybody was using it. Everyone who talks about her, you hear two words. You hear malach, angel, and you hear a queen. Okay, whatever it is. I suppose they have queen angels and other kinds of angels. I don't know how it works. Look, we know that she could have done much more in this world for HaKadosh Baruch Hu and for us. But what she was saying is when it comes to perfecting herself, she had done everything she had to do. In her midot, her character, her behavior, in her Torah, in her kibud abu'em, how she honored her parents and treated her parents, how she was as a wife, as a mother, a teacher, and so on. She completed it. So really, from her point of view, she had no reason to continue. But she wanted to live. She wanted it very badly. She said it to me a few times, I want to live. She cried. And I cried. And she did everything that she had to do to make sure it happens. But listen, she was given a superbug that they were not able to fix. Has to be from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. See this watch? She gave it to me on my last birthday. She wrote a card with it. I think I remember what was in the card. I remember the watch. Again, I was going through her things. She kept the card. It said, she wrote, this is the gift of time. The time that I pray, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give us together. You know, she prayed for everyone. She prayed for everyone. In those little brochures that we gave out, there's an article that she wrote about the deer, the doe. Excuse me. I don't know where all this water's coming from. I didn't drink much today. The deer cries for everyone. That's what she did. You know, we made a point while she had this illness of lighting a candle for Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes, that b'schut Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes she would have refuah shlema. And I liked it when she lit, because I felt coming from her it probably has more impact. But I noticed when she, and also, I noticed when she lit, she stood there for the longest time. She'd just be standing there praying and crying and crying and crying. Thinking to myself, this is good. This is good. God's hearing her prayers that she wants refuah. Then one day I saw what she was reading. All the names of people she was praying for. The say the righteous die for the people, right? I know she's done for us and is no doubt doing for us. But I feel now it's our turn. Yali mentioned at the beginning that the best thing we can do, of course, is to emulate her. If we do things that she did that were important for her, and we say that we're doing it for the Illooi Neshama of Ruth Bat Ahuva, it has a tremendous effect. And what are the things? I would say, whatever you got from her, but I would make a few suggestions. Don't complain. That's tough. Try it. Each time you do it, it will give her zechut. Smile at others. Try saying thank you. Should I thank them or not? Say thank you. When you see another person, say, do I need to thank this person? Did they do something for me that I just took for granted? Be a better spouse. Help your spouses more. That's also tough. These are all tough. They're small, they're obvious, but they're tough. Treat others better. Other people. Even people who are maybe not so nice to you. Try to not harbor a grudge. Big one, grow in Torah. Expound on the Torah. Can you do all of them? Some of them? If it's possible for you to not wear a wig, I'm addressing the husbands here maybe more than the women, because many women have said, my husband insists. Whatever you're able to do, again, and if not this one, then that one. If not that one, the other one. Depending on where you're holding at any given moment, you can either do this, that, or one more, or do them all. That is what I think. You're all here because you love her, and I know you want to do something for her, and we want to keep her going, and we will keep her going. We're going to keep putting out her Torah. We're going to keep putting out, we have a lot of stuff of hers. We'll put out CDs, we'll put out books, stuff that hasn't been published. We will do all that. We will put out a book on her life. We're working on that. A new Torah Minute book is in the works, ready to come out with the women's corner that people love so much. We will there continue the women's corner, which stopped when she did. We will continue it with her teachings. I think most of you here probably get the Daily Torah Minute. If you don't, you can sign up. But let's do for her. What we can do for her is do what it is that she was, what was important to her, and say we're doing it for her Illooi Neshama. Thank you all for making this effort, for coming down. God bless you all.